Shut up, compressor. Hey everyone, Matt here with Dukes Models, and welcome to episode 4 of the Tamiya P-38F build. Now at the end of episode 3, we had just gotten the gear bays built. This time out, we will be installing them into the left and right booms. Now the instructions here get a little bit screwy in terms of build order. Not trumpeter screwy, but just a little bit. So basically you go through building up the gear bays like so, and then boom, let's do oil cooler stuff. Okay, I get it. You know, it's going to be part of the boom, needs to be painted, all that. But then, join the booms, and then you install the oil cooler to the bottom of them. So, I don't know why you don't just... Anyway, we're going to do it differently. We're going to join the booms first. Then we're going to do all this. And by way of that, all this as well. So, let's build some booms. Basically, we've got the halves, and we've got these giant-ass pegs, front and back, that help with locating things. Front one goes into the front right there. The back one goes into the back. And look at that. These things just sit in here. It's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. And I should probably check that before I move on too much further. Yeah, shit. Okay, so actually we have a slight change of plans because I need to paint the edges of this thing in silver, which I have not done. So this is a good opportunity to go ahead and get the other bits out that need to be painted for the oil coolers as well. Okay, now that we've had that little interlude to get things painted up, let's get back to putting gear bays into booms. So again, everything just fits in here like so. Make sure we're all happy. Only challenge is that these parts are very thin, and so therefore they're very floppy. But they go together so well. Thing really doesn't need much to hold it, just a tiny little bit. All right, let's start gluing. This guy sit over here, glue up the next one, and we'll be right back. Okay, so the internal bits of the oil coolers are painted, and for the faces I literally just used a mix of gray and black ink diluted in some water. I don't really care about the back ones because they are not going to be visible at all. Now the front ones will be slightly visible through the two little hold openings in the front. But they still don't need much to kind of do their thing. One thing I did find is they do need a little bit of pressure. Come on. There we go. So I need a little bit of pressure to seat. And then once everything is ready to go, they literally just fall into place like that, and then if you look down the holes, that's what you see. So I can live with that. especially because I can get down there later if I need to with washes and dust and whatnot. Okay, now let's see how the oil coolers install into the booms. Classic Tamiya. Let's run a little bit extra thin along here. Get our lock in. I mean, that is just so good. Man. So for the radiators, rather than dealing with photo etch or trying to figure out how to get texture onto this piece of styrene here, Tamiya provides decals, which at first kind of seems like a cop-out, right? But then you consider that there's going to be covers over these things and they're barely going to be visible, so just the hint is really all that is needed. So these are applied, and I'm not really going to worry about any sort of special treatment of them because they're on a flat surface. If silvering occurs around the edges, it doesn't matter at all. Holy shit, the focus is all over the place. So I'm going to go ahead and put on the lower radiator cover, which is, like everything else on a Tamiya kit, a complete and total snap fit. For the precision on this kit, every single turn just boggles my mind. Like, there is no way that any other company would be able to pull this off. Not even close. And next we have the radiator cover pieces, which I've already painted the inside of. And for these, the numbers don't really matter because they're very well handed. You can see on the part here, this side has a ledge, this side does not. I'm a little bit worried about my cleanup of the sprue gate back here, but we'll see how it does. The hinged outlet doors on the back also help provide some location. Why was I worried about anything? Yet another insane fit. I mean, look at that right there. That is gorgeous. Then we can go ahead and move to the other side. On this side, I think I do need to do a tiny little bit more scraping on okay. Cool. We've got us radiator covers. So next, Tamiya really wants me to install the little scoops that go right here. I'm not going to do that yet though, because if I decide to use the full HGW rivet set and rivet this area, I need to have this not here when I do that. And so that leaves the whole leaving these parts off, etc., which is a bit worrisome when you have parts that are numbered differently and go in similar places and look similarly, like these scoops, right? It seems like it'd be really easy to get them wrong. Except Tamiya, in their wisdom, set it up with these little pins at the very back here that make it impossible to seat it the wrong way, basically. Like, you can't get it in there. You know, it'll sit funky. But then you get the right one, And there you go. So, yay, good on them. And now it's time for... check that we're still talking. And now it's time for the big moment of installing the booms onto the rest of the aircraft. I've already done this once as a test fit, so I've got a good sense of how it's going to go down, which is, like the rest of this kit, completely and totally painlessly. Good God. Just one piece of tape is all it takes just to hold the front down because of the weight. Other than that, these things are just perfect fit. Alright, so let's get to it, shall we? We are committed now. Just hold that there for a second. Swing around to the bottom. Man. Alright, now let's get the nacelles going here. And there we go. A lightning. Now the frustrating thing about this is with the amount of weight that this thing is holding. It's very tough to set it down. Now the tough thing about this is this thing's carrying a lot of weight, but we've got these little attachment points for the main gear struts that I don't want to put all that weight onto. But just to show you how nose heavy this is, we can literally set it on the engines. Nothing behind it, and it just sits perfectly. So, good and bad, I guess. Alright, now let's fit the rear stabilizer. Now I'm not going to glue this in yet because of HGW rivets. Might help if might help if I lined it up properly, huh? There we go. Oh, almost. Okay, there we have it. P-38 time. Well, now, there we go. Still rest more or less happily. Okay, so I went ahead and added a few bits and bobs off camera, such as the rudders back here, which are press fit, the prop blades and their caps, which are taped together and press fit. There's a theme here. The little forward pieces here in the nacelles, which are glued in. On the underside, I've gone ahead and given a test fit to the main gear struts and the nose gear strut. Again, these are just kind of slid into place and they are hanging out perfectly happy. And I've also gone ahead and placed the pylons, which, again, sitting in their locator holes, not glued in place. And as you might note, I've gone ahead and installed the lower caps onto the pylons because I've opted to go ahead and have this guy running nice and dry as opposed to packing a fuel tank or two. Why? Well, two reasons. First of all, most of the reference photos I have from this P-38 squadron in North Africa show them running dry. They're not packing tanks. For the most part, they seem to just be, packing pylons. Second, the P-38 has a really elegant form, and I personally feel like drop tanks slung off the pylons kind of kill it just a little bit. And so, yeah, for those two reasons, historical accuracy and pure aesthetics, I'm going to go ahead and leave the drop tanks off. So next up, there are a whole bunch of little things to do before this thing is ready for paint. And I think there are just enough of them that it makes sense to go ahead and cut the video off here and pick up with those as their own next installment. So, what parade of small things can you expect in the next installment? Well, first of all, the radio deck, which I had planned to use parts mostly from the Edward resin cockpit set to deal with the radio stuff back here. But as I kind of started pulling them out and looking at them, yes, they are quite pretty. The details on these are exquisite and exceptional. But I don't know that they're that much better than the kit parts, at least to justify coming in and cutting up the kit parts to make these fit. And the various decking pieces and things like that are only so-so. So I'm probably going to stick with mostly Tamiya parts for the radios, make a few special modifications myself to add wiring and whatnot, and that'll be a lot of fun. I've also got all the elements that go up into the windscreen, so the coaming, the gun sight, etc., the windscreen itself, and the aft greenhouse that slots down on top of the radio area. Now for those, I need masks. And I actually ordered one of those Edward T-face masking sets that has the masks for both the outside and the inside of the glass. and it appears to be lost somewhere in the postal system. Tracking says it was delivered last week, but there was nothing in the mailbox, and it's been dragging on long enough now that I doubt there ever will be. So that leaves me with the masking sheet that Tamiya provides in the kit, which is great, except it's the typical Tamiya thing where it's not actually cut out. And I don't know about y'all, but cutting precise curves freehand is not really something that I would consider a skill of mine. I can't even draw a straight line with a ruler half the time, it feels like. So I'm hesitant to go in and start cutting those up. So my plan for now is to scan those in and use those to make my own mask set that I will cut out on the silhouette. But I've just been procrastinating doing that because, you know, life is busy and scanning things is a tedious hassle and all of that. But masks will be made, progress will happen. This area will get sorted. Other than this area, I want to go ahead and get the props pre-painted because of that yellow line that I mentioned that covers the base of the spinner here. So my plan is to go ahead and strip all these apart, paint them olive drab, do a little bit of chipping in places, mask that, and then add the yellow stripe around the base. Paint the actual prop blades themselves, get them weathered, get them decaled and masked, and get the tips done, all that, and get them pretty much together and done so they can just be dropped in place later on in the build. Other than that, I want to deal with the turbochargers, all that stuff, and anything that kind of goes around them. I want the turbochargers painted and ready to be dropped in place later on. A few things I think I can probably glue in at this stage. Others I'll just kind of get primed and ready to go and essentially have them prepped to be painted alongside the kit, but not glued in. On the underside, I want to go ahead and get the gear struts because I have now verified they fit in here just like this. I want to go ahead and get them pretty much ready to be installed at the end of the build. So painting, installing brake lines, that sort of a thing. And that also includes dealing with the wheels, which I've got this lovely pair of Ultracast main wheels and a nose wheel in block tread, because these early P-38s, diamond tread didn't seem super common, at least from what I can tell from the reference photos. The problem is, like most resin wheels, the fit is only okay. The pre-drilled holes are too shallow for the gear struts. So, let's see here. You know, it only goes in about that far, and it sits kind of wonky. And it's wobbly, and all that. So, I need to pull out the drill press, make some more accurate holes, and get everything ready to be installed. So that's pretty much the fun stuff that's going to be up in the next episode of the P-38 build. And if you want to see that early, as always, you can go ahead and sign on to my Patreon at patreon.com/dukesmodels, where even though I haven't been as prolific there over the past few weeks as I normally am, I am posting early videos, I am posting behind the scenes stuff on some of the weird things that I'm pursuing behind the scenes, resin and 3D printing, and kits that are coming to the bench in the future, some of my armor plans for the year, blah, 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 blah. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and call a wrap to this installment. So thanks very much for watching. I hope it's proved useful, and stick around because we're just about to get into the really fun stuff with this kit. Later. And then, and only then, fucking hell.